On Sunday, the College Football Playoff Committee said yes to one Alabama school and no to another lower Alabama school. Sorry, Florida State and the ACC, you just got the Pac 12 business from the College Football Playoff Committee. There's always got to be someone that gets the business. And unfortunately, it was the Seminoles. We're going to talk about that and a lot of Trojan football on this episode of Trojans Talk on Tap.
Go Trojans go, LBC pouring cardinal and gold. The next man up is the next Heisman. Only bleed USC, yes we've been built to win. Catch roses while we ball all across the map. Too strong, fight on, as Trojan Talk on Tap.
Hey, thanks a lot for joining me for another episode of Trojans Talk on Tap, where we talk USC football, college football, and always a craft beer recommend to upgrade your tailgate. And in this case, holiday beer. Stick around a little bit later. I got a collaboration, a West Coast IPA by Fremont Brewing and Coronado Brewing. It's called Over the Sea West Coast IPA, a collaboration. And hey, Trojans are going to be in the Holiday Bowl. Coronado Brewing right down there in the heart of San Diego near the Gaslamp District. Speaking of collaboration, I want to thank the guys over at Light the Torch podcast. Got to check them out. They had me on Friday evening just as the news broke that new USC defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn had accepted the position or was named the defensive coordinator and accepted the position at USC. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me on. Appreciate you. Great show. Continued success to all of you. Also, on Saturday morning, dropped a video with Tony Altomore. You know, Tony from the Voice of College Football. He's the host of the USC post-game live show, which I'm also on. And he's also the host of on Wednesdays at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern on the Voice of College Football, the Pac-12 chat show live. And we broke down in the morning before the college football playoff championship games. We broke down the hiring of D'Anton Lynn. Appreciate you, Tony, for joining me. And then finally, USCJ. USCJ is on top of USC recruiting, the transfer portal, players from USC going into the transfer portal. Check out USCJ. He had a great interview with Darwin Barlow. Sad to see Darwin Barlow jump in the portal, but I understand why he made the decision. Congratulations to you, Darwin. You're a great Trojan, and may you find success wherever university is lucky to have you play running back for them. So collaboration is big, and a lot of news breaking with USC. We're going to get into what happened with the college football playoff. I'm going to give you my take, and there's a lot going on, but real quickly with USC, a lot going on as well as we hire, we talked about the new defensive coordinator. I think it's a great hire. Check out the video again with Tony regarding our thoughts on D'Anton Lynn. Congrats to Caleb Williams. We had a feeling that would be the last time we'd see him at the Coliseum playing the USC uniform versus UCLA. Caleb Williams is not going to be in the Holiday Bowl, and it's only a matter of time before he declares for the NFL draft. Congratulations to you, Caleb. Appreciate you doing everything you've done for USC. Congrats on your Heisman and best of luck in the NFL, and go get paid, young man. Also, transfer portal opened up on Monday, and one of the questions that was posed to me on the Light the Torch podcast is, hey, Rick, what do you think is going to happen in the transfer portal? And I was predicting that the numbers were going to increase by at least 20% this year, and it's trending that way. I think if you want to get great information on the transfer portal, you gotta subscribe to The Athletic and read Max Olson. He is the transfer portal guru, and I think he had mentioned there was close to 600 FBS and basically FBS schools players that declared for the transfer portal on Monday, and of which 85 are quarterbacks. So why the increase? I think it's due to a few reasons. Number one, it's the maturity of the transfer portal. Also, NIL is a big important factor. People are becoming more familiar with that as each transfer portal opportunity presents itself in the last few years. And look at the quarterbacks. The value is between $1 to $2 million on who you who you listen to. Matt Rule basically came out. I think he said quarterbacks are worth about $1.5 million in the transfer portal. Again, 85 quarterbacks tells you something. And there's also the emergence of next year's the 12-team playoff. So coaches and players are going to want to be a part of that college football playoff scenario, the new scenario that's supposed to be better. And after Sunday, I don't know if it is going to be any better. And Deanton Lynn was out there recruiting with Lincoln Riley and USC. Here they are in Marcellus Williams' home over the weekend. And there's Deanton Lynn rocking the Cardinal and gold for the first time. So good to see him out there repping USC, and he's out on the road. And then lastly, Deanton Lynn, I guess today had a press conference, so we'll get into that along with bowl selections coming up. A lot of information, so this is the time to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. A lot of great things going on, a lot of content going to be dropping this week, a lot of information going on. And I waited until today for a number of reasons. Wanted to see kind of the fallout, what was going on. I wanted to digest what was happening with the college football playoff Sunday morning, and then to see some of the reaction that was coming out on social media about what happened. And let me just start by saying this. There's friends that know me, and there's people that know me on the Voice of College Football that have gotten to know me the last little over a year and a half. I have friends that have known me for 40 years, 20 years, 10 years. And they'll all tell you when Rick talks about USC football and college football, it's one of my passions. I love the sport with all its warts, its beauty, its ugliness. And there's a lot of corrupt individuals in college football. It starts at the top with the NCAA. And one of the reasons why I started this channel is to talk about those things, being a Trojan. And sure, I know I got some friends down there in the deep South, and they're saying, "Oh, Rick, you should take that LBC hat off and put on your tinfoil hat." That's their lazy excuse. But when there's a lot of people drumming, pounding the drum, they're starting to understand. The people in Tallahassee right now, you might think they're wearing tinfoil hats too, but no, they have every right to be pissed off. And I'm going to tell you right now, I deal with facts. I deal with business. I look at college football as a business because that's what it is. And so I'll prevent you facts. You've seen me on the channel before. Those that have been on the channel for a while or recognize me for the Voice of College Football and heard me speak about USC and college football. And it's kind of like, on offense, it's very calculated. It's precision. It's facts. It's how you move the ball. Defense is passion. Defense is chaos. It's going all over the place, trying to knock the quarterback's head off. And that's what today's show is going to be about, really, because there's a lot of stuff going down. And it started a long time ago. College football has been broken for a number of years, and that's the beauty of it. And there's a lot of corrupt people that make money. So if you look at it from, yes, this is what I wish it was like this back in the old days. The old days were just as corrupt, all right? I mean, go back to Eric Dickerson, the Gold Trans Am. He was supposed to be all USC. And at the last minute, he had a meeting with the SMU people, and 20 minutes later, he was a Mustang. And I think he was driving a Gold Trans Am in a matter of hours. So, hey, it's just a different generation. There's more crooks now than ever. And no disrespect, I don't know the guy, but the guy who heads the college football playoff committee this year, I don't envy his job, but boo. Can you trust a guy named Boo? Obviously not. If you're a member of the ACC or Florida State, supposedly this guy's the NC State AD, and he took marching orders from somebody, I don't know who, but somebody at ESPN. Follow the money. They told him what to do. All right, let me get into this, okay? And I want to know your thoughts. Who punked Florida State? Who was behind the code red? Or who was behind the code garnet? or who was behind the code crimson, because they put in Alabama, they screwed lower Alabama, because that's what they tell me. Tallahassee is lower Alabama. I've had the time to go spend over in the Panhandle a few different times. I like Pensacola. Florida State, my heart goes out to you that you got screwed by the SEC, by ESPN, and the NCAA. Just my opinion. Okay. But you're going to get to hear my opinion, and you can choose to like it or not. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I wrong? Am I completely off base? But let me start the day. Okay. I had a text given to me, and this was by a friend of mine, Randy Z, who's here in the community. He was basically saying Milroe will be wearing a suit in the front row at the New York Athletic Club when Bo Nix wins the Heisman. Spell checker keeps changing his name. And by the way, Randy is a friend or he's a fan of a certain SEC team, not named Alabama, but one of those lesser teams that likes to chant SEC, SEC, SEC. He proceeds to tell me everybody's rooting for the Cards to avoid controversy tomorrow. So this was on Saturday again. So what controversy could Randy Z be talking about? Lord knows. And I said, I'm the biggest FSU fan today, biggest FSU fan. And this gentleman tells me Pearl Harbor Kennedy Assassination 911. If the SEC doesn't make the Final Four, they will live in infamy. Oh my God. Popcorn out. I hear you. He says, I hear you doing the tomahawk here at the bottom of the hill. That's right. I was doing the tomahawk. I had it going with my middle finger pointed at the TV and ESPN. I had an idea what was going to happen on Sunday, but I was rooting for FSU. If FSU lost, everything is easy. If FSU won, which they did without a quarterback, without their, let's say, starting and second string quarterback, they went with a freshman, Brock Glenn. That's what they had. But that defense was tremendous. Their special teams was on point, and they won the game. They won the game. And that was an undefeated Power 5 conference team. Never happened before. So with bated breath, we're all watching the show. And to hear that Alabama was put into the college football playoff at number 4, I was like, oh, great. Let's hear the explanation on this. Whenever there's doubt, follow the money, okay? For those younger fans that don't understand, this is a business. It's corrupt. It's corrupt. And the reason why they have a committee, God bless his soul, Mike Leach. If you haven't seen his interview, Google it on YouTube. He talked about it in 2017. He talked about the committee, about having a committee. Why even have a committee? Why don't you just rank the top 4 teams at the beginning of the year and not play the games and just spare everybody the embarrassment? That's what happens when you have a committee. If a committee is so great, why do any of the other sports conduct their playoffs with a committee? Phenomenal. He was great. And he foreshadowed it 6 years ago that this was a joke. How on earth do you pass a college football playoff system that takes the top 4, basically in a perfect world, you're selecting 4 teams, but there's 5 power conferences. What happens if all 5 power conferences have a team that's undefeated? Okay. Well, it didn't happen this year. There were 3 that are undefeated, but supposedly there was a conference that had where, losses just mean more. Now, hey, I get it. Texas went down to Alabama and beat them by 10. Steve Sarkisian, a former head coach at the University of Washington, former head coach at the University of Southern California, a former offensive coordinator at the University of Southern California, a former offensive coordinator at Alabama under Nick Saban, goes in there and beats them by 10. Everybody sees it. And, the SEC, they are a very, very, they are the best college football conference, but not this year. And I know there's going to be bias out there, but what they are the best at, they are the best year in and year out college football business. They are. Greg Sankey, that guy's ruthless. He knows how to play the game. Hey, Everybody else is playing 9 games. We're going to continue to play 8. Don't tell us what to do. Oh, and those 4 out of conference games, yeah, we're going to have the traditional cupcake because you know, we need a tune-up game against the FCS. We're going to make that little school some money, and then the other have 3 other out of conference games. And so, as you can see, over the last decade, there are always going to be preseason. Oh, we got 7 teams in the top 25 because they're going off of last year's finishes. I mean, how, Jesus Christ, how does Tennessee with 4 losses, how were they like 2 weeks left in the season at 7-4, ranked number 21? How? They didn't play anybody. Oh, they did play people, but they didn't win, games. It's ridiculous that they were 7-4, but that's the SEC. That's the shell game. Oh, well, this team has beat this many ranked teams. Well, yeah, it's ridiculous, but that's the SEC. So as you can imagine, Mike Leach, he had some things to say. And ESPN also had one of their mouthpieces say a few things, and that's, Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, this guy with 6 million views, he's got like 5.8 million followers. Condolences to Florida State. They were fantastic, but blame no further than TCU. If they had gotten destroyed 65-7 in a national title game last year, things may have been different. But we don't need the potential of another slaughter because FSU doesn't have a QB. Could not risk it. Are you kidding me? You were a carnival barker, Stephen A. Smith. And just to let everybody know out there, okay, Stephen A. Smith, stay in your lane. You follow the NBA. You were an NBA beat writer. The reason why ESPN is having him tweet out because he's tweeting out to all the dumb masses. That's what he's doing. Okay? He is basically told by the ESPN executives, hey, this is what you need to say. Bring up the TCU thing. It's a red herring. It's a distraction. It's a fly in the ointment. He's an idiot. Okay? That shows you how much disrespect that ESPN's executive have for the average college football fan. Now, the people in the South, they're eating that stuff up. They're pumping out their chest. Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're supporting Alabama. I love Alabama, by the way. They're a great team. They're not one of the schools that chants SEC, 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 because they go out there and win championships. And if they got the invite to come play in this invitational, then so be it. What are they going to do? Say no? But let's be serious, man. Let's be serious. They're doing Nick Saban a solid. And like I said, Greg Sankey's smart. He knows how to game the system. And where was he on Saturday morning? He was on ESPN Game Day. And he basically sent out the code red. He looked right at the camera. And he was speaking to the College Football Playoff Committee. Ain't no way in hell that the SEC was going to get left out of the college football playoff. How does that happen? How does the best conference in America not get 2 teams in and at least 1? So he was speaking to them. And he was speaking to the ESPN executives who make the decision based on eyeballs. You got to understand business. ESPN's been taking a hit since they signed that 15-year, $2.5 billion deal with the SEC in 2008, 1 year after Nick Saban started coaching at Alabama. Okay, businesses has changed. People are cutting the cord. Cable TV, their numbers have gone down in households. There's more of streaming, and they laid off a bunch of people at ESPN. Unfortunately, they kept Stephen A. Smith because he's their paid mouthpiece, the carnival barker. That's who he is. So that's what ESPN thinks of the average college football fan, that we're dumb. No, we're not. We've seen this movie before. You're ridiculous. Okay? I feel bad for Florida State. I feel bad for the other 84 players that busted their butts all year long. How do you guys feel? How do you feel out there for Florida State? How do you feel about the NCAA and how corrupt they are? What do you think about ESPN and the game that they play? How do you have one TV partner for the 10 years of the college football playoff? That's a monopoly. Of course. They create the agenda. And it's funny because think of a chessboard, okay? Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, Joey Galloway, Pat McAfee. The other guy from Michigan, Heisman Trophy winner. What's his name? I'm forgetting it right now. But you know who I'm talking about. It'll come to me. But that guy, um, they're pawns, all right? They're told what to do by the ESPN business executives. They're running numbers. It's all about views, Nielsen numbers, ad revenue, and obviously ESPN was not making enough money because they had a bunch of layoffs. It tells you what type of weaker financial position they're in. Okay. Now you don't mean to tell me you put in Alabama at number 4 and they're going to face a number 1 Michigan. And by the way, Michigan shouldn't have been number 1. Washington should have. And if the NCAA had any balls, they would be investigating and wouldn't allow Michigan to play in the college football playoff. And speaking of that tweet by Stephen A. Smith, sorry, but TCU did beat Michigan, and maybe they beat Michigan because rumor has it they knew that Michigan was cheating, and they ran different plays based on certain formations. So kudos to you, Michigan. If you have any complaints, ESPN, about maybe low TV numbers, and you have to have your carnival barker Stephen A. Smith tweet about it, well, maybe ESPN, you should be going after the NCAA and tell them to go ahead and penalize Michigan because they cheated everybody. They cheated you guys out of a lot of money, right? Because you had to let TCU in. And then TCU beat Michigan and got boat race national championship. So ESPN probably didn't get the numbers they thought they were going to get, and probably had to give backs on ad space, on advertising. So see how this all works? See how this all works? Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I'm passionate about this because college football hasn't changed, and it's not going to change with the 12-team playoff. In fact, back in 1978, and hey, Trojans, they're out there. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you're a Trojan, you maybe lived through it. You saw it. You had your dad talk to you about it. You had an uncle, a grandfather, but they told you what happened in 1978. Yeah, they told you. There was another team that went down into Alabama in 1978. They went down to Beham and they beat Alabama by 10, and they beat Bear Bryant. And back in those days, the voters, or basically the college football playoff committee today, were the voters. It was the coaches and the AP, the sports writers, and they declared a national champion. That's what they did. Okay. Bear Bryant had been coaching for 20 years at Alabama at that time and had won 4 national championships prior to 1978. USC went down there and beat them by 10. And USC played an additional game that year because they were playing Hawaii. So USC finished 12-1. They had lost to ASU. And Alabama finished 11-1. And what did they do? They split the national championship. The AP awarded one national championship, and the UP and the sports writers awarded another. Bear Bryant had a lot of influence back in the day, and those games weren't on TV. Not a lot of those games were on TV. So it was the sports writers that wrote the stories that influenced the voters and the coaches. And he had an aura or a presence, much like Nick Saban does today with ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee, much like Greg Sankey is there to be, Nick Saban's right-hand man. And my God, this is the last year of that 15-year deal, and they did Nick Saban and Greg Sankey a solid. They put him in there, hook or crook, and they screwed FSU. And you know what? At the end of the day, College Football Playoff Committee, they don't care. Better to piss off one fan base and one school in Florida State than piss off 14 schools in the SEC, because goddamn, if that were to happen, they would secede from the Union. A civil war would happen all over again. It would. Because they believe it's their God-given right, the SEC, teams in the SEC, to be in the college football playoff. They told you as much. Greg Sankey was on College Game Day. There's no secret. And what did the College Football Playoff Committee do? They did what they needed to do. They listened to the ESPN executives, and they executed the code Garnett. They blew out Florida State, and they brought in Alabama. Now, people are going to say, well, hey, they deserve it, and this, that, and the other. And, they're not the same team without Jordan Travis. Hey, did anybody see Monday Night Football last night? I feel bad for the former Clemson quarterback, Mr. Sunshine. I love that guy. Hopefully, it's just a sprained ankle. But Trevor Lawrence, I feel sorry for that guy. And uh, reports are that he has a sprained ankle. So, do you keep the Jacksonville Jaguars out of the NFL playoffs? Now, I understand it's two different sports, but it shows you how ridiculous that college football is. Again, listen to what Mike Leach said. Mike Leach was, saying it's the only sport that really has a committee to determine something in terms of a playoff. But it's crazy because these players work their butts off. Not only are they athletes, but they're students. And to really tell 84 guys that, yeah, it doesn't matter that you won out. But again, the system was flawed to begin with, and the perfect storm happened. And you know what? They really don't care. College football playoff doesn't care. This is the last year of it, but they're going to have to deal with it because those people at Florida State, they're pissed off, and they have every right to be. And they have it's called Fund the Exit and FSU #FSU Twitter. Check them out, man. My heart goes out to Florida State that you have to go through this. And if anybody knows, I'd love to have a YouTuber that covers Florida State. If anybody knows it, please send that message down in the comments. I'd love to have somebody from Florida State that does a YouTube channel. Let's talk about what's going on with Florida State. I want to hear about that. Speaking of Florida, hey, it's great to have a governor like Rick Scott. This letter was sent yesterday, and it's sent to Boo Corrigan, and it's copied to every member on the College Football Playoff Committee, as well as to ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. And he wants transparency. He's calling for, this is a 2-page letter, and he's calling for transparency. He wants all the emails and texts and phone records that went from the College Football Playoff Committee to ESPN to and amongst all the members itself. He has 10 different points of transparency that he is requesting. And so for the fact that a U.S. Senator from Florida has this letter generated one day after this fiasco shows you that they are ticked off. They are ticked off. And there's a great tweet today by Ross Dellinger. He says the beginning of the Super Conference began in 1984 when the Supreme Court granted control of TV revenue contracts to college conferences. There's been a lot of discussion that, hey, this is just expediting what people are fearing now as we move into the 12-team playoff with the emergence of a Big Ten and an SEC Super Conference. Even though that there's going to be 12 playoff spots, it seems like there's a lot of trepidation that many of those at-large bids are going to go to those two networks. And those two, I say networks, that was a slip, but not really. But to those two conferences who are going to be backed by major network partners. Again, the Big Ten has partners with NBC, Fox, and CBS, and then you have the SEC, partnering with ESPN/ABC. But yeah, the problem is going to continue because there's not a perfect system, and again, there's going to be more money to be made, and with more money becomes more greed and corruption. So there was corruption back, as I pointed out, in 1978. There was corruption in 84. Then you had ESPN was in its 5th year. And then all of a sudden you got more and more college football games televised on TV. And it became a huge business. And one of the things that is you won't find in America is free labor. But college football, for the longest time, worked on free labor. It was a perfect business. There was a lot of people making a lot of money off of these college athletes. And congratulations to them for getting NIL because there's no longer a black market. And speaking of black market, yeah, teams like USC got penalized because there was corruption. Allegedly, this is my opinion, there was corruption between the NCAA, ESPN, and the SEC to take down USC. Now, you will get to hear in future episodes my opinion, along with others that can talk to that. Because, hey, if what happened on Sunday happened, trust me, there was corruption many years ago, And there's a lot of people that didn't want to see USC be successful because when it comes to West Coast football, it was USC and there was a targeted hit, and I'll leave it like that. And that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. But we haven't seen any type of sanctions because it's not fair to the student athletes to be penalizing the ones that had nothing to do with it. And Reggie Bush's former running back coach, Todd McNair, got a settlement from the NCAA a decade later for reportedly $8 million. So, and Reggie Bush, good luck to him. Congratulations. You got in the College Football Hall of Fame. Your lawsuit versus the NCAA back in August, September. Hopefully you win that. You get your Heisman Trophy back, and you give the big old middle finger to the NCAA. Yeah. And God rest your soul, Paul D. With that, let's talk about a beer because I am thirsty. And now for the craft beer recommend. Again, we're going to be sampling a collaboration between Fremont Brewing out of Seattle, Washington, and Coronado Brewing Company, a great brewery out of San Diego. It's called Over the Sea West Coast IPA, 6.5%. Congratulations to the Washington Huskies, Pac-12 champions, the last year of the Pac-12, and the number 2 seed in the college football playoff. So as you can see there, we got a little West Coast going from Seattle down to San Diego. Trojans, the most dominant team of the PCC, Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 era, with 7 national championships since 1962. Fight on, Trojans, and you'll be in the Holiday Bowl. So looking at this, I smell a little bit of citrus, 6.5%. It's moderately bitter. I prefer a strong West Coast IPA. I like a bitter beer, but hey, let me take a sample and I'll give you what I think. And hey, maybe check out this beer if you're going down the Holiday Bowl. Aroma of citrus. It's slightly bitter. It's approachable. If you're looking to get into maybe an IPA, you're looking at kind of entry level. Yeah, this kind of does it. It's somewhat aromatic. It's a good tasting entry level IPA, I would say. So with that, good luck to the Huskies. Go win the college football playoff and show that the college football playoff committee didn't know what they were doing by putting in Alabama. Sorry to be you, FSU. You got the Pac-12 treatment. Hopefully your senator can cause hell with boo, Corrigan, and that just ridiculous college football playoff selection, because you can't spell selection without SEC. We'll catch you next time.